Welcome to our webinar. My name is Julia Billen. I'm the owner and president here at WarmlyYours. And I have my sidekick Scotty with me. Scotty, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Scott. I hope you can hear us. Sorry about the delay there. Thank you for staying with us.
Today we're going to be talking about winterizing any bedroom, really any bedroom.
That needs new flooring.
Cool. With heated laminate floors. Scott is in charge of everything technical at WarmlyYours. So he's the guy that's going to be answering all the tough questions. I'm here for my good looks. But today is all about you. So we really do want you to participate. Ask us questions. There is an area for that. Don't ask us why we had those technical difficulties. We have no clue. But throughout the presentation, please feel free to ask questions. We do have some help off camera, so if you hear a strange voice in the background, it's not my dual personality. We actually will have someone helping us with those questions. So let's dig right into it.
Let's get started.
Why would we heat a laminate floor? And just to back up for a second, why did we even do a webinar focused on laminate flooring?
Well, laminate flooring is a very popular floor choice, and the product that you can use to install this type of heat is very easy to install. So it's a great combination, and a lot of times this type of flooring, it goes into bonus rooms or rooms above unheated areas. So this type of flooring and this type of heat is perfect for a floor that's over an uninsulated space like a garage in the Midwest. It also, usually these rooms have a lot of heat loss from the floor, out the walls, and through the ceiling. So what you normally have to do in a room like this is turn up your furnace and get your rest of your house up to 80 degrees to get this room to be 70. Well, we know that's quite inefficient, and you will definitely feel it in your bill, your gas bill or electric bill. So what you do is you get this floor warm. You can leave the house at the regular temperature or even lower the temperature for the rest of the house. So you're localizing the heat where you really need it, which was going to definitely impact your heating bill in a positive way.
All right, and the project that we're going to be talking about today, folks, is exactly that. We have a bedroom over an unheated garage, tremendous heat loss, could not solve it with a traditional HVAC. The other bedrooms were very hot for this bedroom to be even comfortable. And it's not actually good to be sleeping in a hot bedroom. It's actually doesn't help sleep. It's the opposite. No. So by including radiant heating, we were able to get this to a comfortable temperature. And so that's why we love this combination. Laminate flooring, very popular. Heating it, especially over these hard to heat rooms, is the perfect combination.
Right.
So let's do a project overview.
Okay.
We're going to talk about the products that we use. This is that slide. We're also going to talk about the size of the bedroom. We'll go on to that next. But we have two products that we used in this application. Both of them are used under a floating floor, floating wood, laminate type flooring. But they come in different varieties. Talk us through the top two.
Well, the great thing about this is it'll also go under carpet. So if you're thinking about doing carpeting, we'll talk about that in a different webinar, but it's going to be the same sort of installation with the Environ Easy Mats and with the Environ Flex Rolls. The Easy Mats are like large blankets that you can just lay out and cover the subfloor very, very rapidly, and they are easy. They're pre-wired and everything. You just need to get the cold lead that attaches to them over to the thermostat. So you can do very large areas that are rectangular shapes very, very quickly. If you have an area that is not kind of off the beaten path, it might be a little irregular shape, that sort of thing, you can use the Environ Flex Rolls to fill those smaller areas. The Flex Rolls take a little bit longer to install because you have to roll them out, cut them, turn them, and when you're cutting and turning them, you're not cutting the wire.
Never.
Just cutting the aluminum and turning it. That will allow you to fill those smaller spaces.
Now these do look pretty sci-fi as a result of that aluminum. I think they're pretty cool looking. Is there a layer of foil sandwiching the heating element?
It helps spread the heat out, and another thing it does, it also keeps the heating wires spaced evenly. So you don't have to worry about them getting too close or too far apart. They're put right into the carrier, which is the aluminum foil. Now, the thing you want to do also is if you're thinking about doing one of these floors, we get people that call us all the time and they say, well, I want to use this really thin foam underlayment.
Yeah.
Well, they want to use that because it's really thin and it's foam and it's very inexpensive. But it doesn't pair up very well with this product because it doesn't have much of an R value. And it doesn't give you the height off the subfloor that you need to get your cold leads from these products over to the wall to let you get up to the thermostat.
Let's talk about that for a minute. You mentioned the R value. Why is that something we should be thinking about when we have these hard to heat rooms?
Well, first of all, you want to isolate the warm area from the cold area. And you want to do that with an R-rated, not R-rated because this is a family webinar, but a good R value of a subfloor covering like Cork. Because what that's going to do is going to uncouple the heating wire from the cold subfloor. So you have a cold subfloor, you put the Cork over it, and then you put the wire on top of that. It's going to make the final product get much warmer.
And the heat is going to
go upward instead of down.
Yeah, more than down. Right. Excellent. And so you're solving that with the third product here, which is the Cork underlayment. Why Cork versus some other type of underlayment? We talked about R value, but you had a second point there.
You have to be able to get the cold leads that are about 1/4 of an inch thick. You have to be able to get them from the mat over to the wall. These products never sit right up against the wall usually. So what you need to do is you need to be able to have some way for that wire that's running through your floor to get lowered so the laminate doesn't teeter-totter over that wire. And the way to do that is to cut the Cork out, recess it, and then you have a nice flat surface to go ahead and put your laminate over.
Excellent. So we've got 3 products here. Now, you would not normally use 3 all the time. You could be using either the mats, they don't get cut, or the rolls. They are, you are able to cut the mesh, or the foil, I should say here. And then the Cork. The Cork could be optional, I assume?
If you wanted to actually take a router and route into your subfloor, if you have a wood subfloor, then you'd have to actually mark where your cold leads are going to be traveling, then take a router and router it out.
Okay.
Now, if you try to mate that with a concrete slab, and now you're going to have to take a chisel and chisel out the path for those wires.
Sounds like the Flintstone days to me.
Correct. So that's why we want to use this Cork, because it does 2 things for us.
Okay, great. Let's now talk about, we know the products that we're using. This just happens to be a combination of 2 Environ products. Could be one or the other. Let's talk about the bedroom that we're heating. It's over an uninsulated garage, very cold in that garage during the winters. And so we show those 2 products to you along with, the size of the room so you guys can get a general idea of, this is a large bedroom. Another reason why it's probably harder to heat than most. So you're talking 370 square feet. We're looking at how much power did that take in terms of the heating elements, because we put approximately 258 square feet of heating into that room. You don't cover edge to edge. You could, but you don't necessarily, as you said, you don't walk into that final foot against the wall.
Right.
And so with the combination of the heating mats, the wattage here for a large room isn't so bad. We're at a little over 3,000, and that's a little under 14 amps. So all of that could be on a dedicated circuit. Talk to us about the operating cost and how that connects to the power requirements.
Well, whether you're in 240 or in 120, this product we did because it was large. We needed to do it in 240 volt instead of 120.
Okay.
240 volt lets you cover a larger area. 240 is not more efficient than 120. That's a wives' tale. So what we've done is we've done this in 240 to allow us to get that coverage on one control.
Excellent idea.
And that will, if we did it in 120, we'd need 2 controls to do this amount of space.
And both options here come in 240 or 120.
Correct.
So this is a really great tip for those larger areas. Go to 240 if you have it.
And if you're under 120 square feet, do 120 volts because that's all you need.
Okay.
That way we're able to keep it on a non-GFCI breaker. And the total wattage is 3,227 watts, which is 3.2 kilowatts. And that's what you're getting charged by the electricity company for. So if you take that and do the math, this costs about 26 cents per hour.
Okay.
So once again, this thermostat that we used is a programmable thermostat. So this floor is not at this temperature all day long.
Right.
So it costs 26 cents an hour to operate when you have it on,
And
which could be only 4 to 5 hours a day.
And just to get up to temperature.
Right.
After that, it's kind of in and out, maybe a third of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So you can cut that, but slash that by
About 60%.
Exactly. So for a large bedroom, this is a great affordable option in terms of operating costs and product costs. We'll talk about that later as well, to get those bedrooms winterized and comfortable. Let's do the install now. Let's walk through the first step, which is we've got to know some particular details about that room. What do you love to see on a sketch that's being sent in?
Dimensions.
Dimensions are good.
Yeah. We need to see the size of the room. We need to find out areas that you want heated and areas that you don't want heated. We also want to know where the thermostat location that you desire is. If we don't hear that from you, we're going to usually put it by a door because that's where most people want their thermostats. And also, if you're in the United States, heating in closets is against the code, National Electric Code. So you'd want to label these two small areas on the left side as closets.
Okay.
And we would find that out when we're talking to you. If you're in Canada and you're watching today, you can heat a closet as long as you put a thermostat in there.
Excellent.
So you could, if you were in Canada, heat those two closets. You would just need 2 more thermostats to do that. So you can see here where we have our dimensions. We have an area shown in this particular room that the bed is going to be in this area. So if you have a bedroom, most people, once they know where their bedroom is and they move in, they keep the bed in the same spot. A lot of people do. A lot of people don't. They move it around if they want to.
Every weekend I'm moving that around.
So the idea is if you know that your bed is going to be in the same place for as long as you live in this house, then we should not be heating under the bed because all that is going to be wasted area.
But for people like me?
Yes, so what we would do is we could actually put a pad under there and disconnect it. And then we could, if you move the bed, go ahead and connect it and put it somewhere else. Also, if you move the bed, you can do it if it's heated. The one thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you are getting it where you want it to be, and then you make sure that you don't have a dust ruffle or anything that goes directly to the floor. You want to make sure that there's about 2 inches of clearance between the dust ruffle and your floor to allow air to circulate under the bed so it doesn't get trapped.
So if you do decide to heat under that bed, which would be my choice, you would make sure you have at least 2-inch clearance. Mm-hmm. Okay, excellent.
And you'd also want to show any permanent fixtures in this room, where especially box bottom type dressers.
Anything that's flush to the floor?
Right. Anything that's flush to the floor, anything that's permanent that you do not want to heat under it because the heat will be trapped for one thing. And then your feet will never be there, so there's no need to heat it because you're just wasting electricity at that point.
Right, so people really do need to think about that footprint. For example, between those 2 closets, that looks like a walkway, probably leading into the master bathroom. So you probably would want to heat that area because you're going to be walking that path a lot. So take into consideration your footprint. Let us know any large fixtures or furniture that are going to be in that room. Think about that bed. Do you want heat under it or not? Let us know the position of the thermostat, and always check those dimensions.
Right.
So we've got our sketch here, so that gives you a general idea of what this bedroom looked like. Does anybody out there have any questions about floor plans? You send those in to us very easily. You can design it online. You can fax it to us. You can email these to us.
Make a drawing, put your dimensions down, take a picture of it, email us a picture.
That's brilliant. So, so let's move on and we'll show you the result of that. You send us in the sketch. We send back this beautiful multicolored rectangular square box kind of thing. Walk us through this one.
Well, here we designed this specifically so we could have 2 types of Environ product in here. The large mats and the small cut and turn rolls.
Right, I can see where those large mats really do take up a good chunk of that space. And so that makes it much easier to install. You're just plopping those down. So we look at 3, 4, 5, and number 2, and those are the large rectangular mats. And then the smaller one, 1 and 6, those are the roll, or 6 are rectangular mat
6
as
is
well.
a rectangular mat.
Yeah, that does not look cut. So only one cut and turn flex roll in this room. So not so bad. Most of this was just plop it down.
Very, very quick. I mean, you can cover 60 square feet in about 30 seconds. It's very, very quick to install.
That's wonderful. Now talk to me about that number 1 roll there that we see on the floor plan, because that does require a little bit of effort, not much, but walk us through the start, the beginning, and how you're combining that.
That's a 1.5 foot wide by 20 foot long roll, and it's cut and turned to fill in that little space there. If you look on the right side of the drawing, you'll see scissors, and notice how the scissors is cutting the mat, but not the cable. That allows you to cut and turn the product, so that's how you fill that space. So you can see there's a triangle. A triangle represents the beginning of that, and the square is the end. So we have joined, if you take a look at all the triangles, you can see the triangles are all kind of grouped together because that's the side that the power leads are going to be coming out of.
And you want to get close to that thermostat location, the
Right.
T that's indicated on the smart plan.
That's correct.
Okay. And then that area that's not heated, that's where the bed is located. So that saved them a little bit of money because we didn't heat under that area. But if they wanted to get a few more BTUs, a little bit more heat in that room, maybe it's a lot of windows, maybe there's a fireplace in that room, it could happen. You might want to consider heating under that bed as long as you have the clearance to get additional BTUs and warmth into the room.
If you notice, you pull off the walls, that affects your quote a few ways. The fewer square feet you heat, the less expensive it is.
Yes.
The less expensive it is to run it. And also imagine yourself, when is the last time you ever stood right up against the wall? You want to put these pads and mats in an area that are going to be where your feet are in the room. So there's no need to put it in the corner because no one, unless they have a dunce cap on and they're sitting over there, there's no reason they're going to be over in that area. So that's why we pulled the coverage away from the walls to get it in the areas where you're going to walk.
Excellent. And you did get a nice size rectangular mat in that hallway as well. So that's a bonus.
One other thing, if we would have tried to fit more coverage into this room, it probably could have been done. However, that would have gone over 15 amps. And at that point, we have to start worrying about wiring a secondary controller, a power module, which will increase your cost also. So you can change the coverage in the room to fit the specific circuit size that you have, because the thing is, keep in mind, the thermostat only switches 15 amps.
Great. And so your account manager or our tech team can walk you through, give you their expertise, their rating heating expert. You're an expert, aren't you?
Sometimes.
So,
On this stuff, that's about it.
So they can walk you through those tips to help you get the right combination of coverage, get the right coverage for the particular control that you want. So that's an added benefit of working with our account managers. All right, so this is a smart plan. We return this to you. We'd like you to check those dimensions, make sure nothing has changed, because nothing changes ever, all the time.
Now let's say that the reason why we always are so big on that, dimensions in construction, new construction, are always very fluid. And let's say that somebody says, oh, you know what? My husband has found a big bookcase that he wants to install into this bedroom, or my wife wants to put something permanent over in this corner. Remember, if it's something permanent that's not going to move, we don't want to heat under it. Right. So that's the case where you're changing the amount of available space to a smaller amount.
Okay.
All of a sudden, these mats may not fit. If all of a sudden you decide, I'm going to put a big built-in wood cabinet along that wall, everything's going to have to be shrunken. And if it shrinks too much, we may not be able to fit all this stuff in. That's why it's so important to check the dimensions before you go out the day that you're doing the installation.
Excellent. All right, so we've got the smart plan. You've got that on site. You've given that to your contractor, your installer. You've reviewed it personally, checked off that there's a reality check, no change. So let's go over the install from a big picture point of view. Let's start at the bottom and work our way up, sort of like what you did in your career.
Yeah. Some people would argue with that, but yeah, we'll use that as an example. We take a look at this, and it's when you're putting in floor heat, it's always about the layers. It's
Okay.
what is your final flooring going to be, and what are you starting with?
Okay.
So we need to know what your subfloor is, and we need to know what your choice of flooring is. And once we know those two things, we can tell you exactly how we're going to proceed. So we know that this room had a wood subfloor, and we also know that we don't feel like routing into the subfloor with a router. So we're going to get cork on top of that because it's a cold space below. So we're going to cover that entire floor with cork. We're not going to glue it down. It's just going to lay loosely on top of that because this whole system is floating. Okay. So when you have an entire floating system, the cork doesn't get glued down. The Environ doesn't get glued to anything. Nothing ever glues to Environ. So you have all these items and they are floating. So we've got the subfloor, the cork, or Cerazorb if we decide we're going to use that, which we can on wood subfloor. And also we've got the Environ system and then the laminate on top of that.
Great. Okay. Love that visual. That helps a lot. All right. So let's go through the process now step by step. We've got our subfloor. That's going to be a nice, clean subfloor. Let's get to the next slide where we can talk about what you love to talk about all the time, which is testing, testing, testing.
Right. And you want to do this testing before you get to the job site. As soon as you get the package delivered to you, test it right out of the box to make sure it's good. Make sure nothing happened between the factory and you. Because if something did happen, the UPS guy or the other delivery service got in a car wreck and one of these mats got bent or whatever, it's always better to know that the day you get the box as opposed to taking the box unopened to the job site next week and then going and pulling it out and finding the box has been damaged and also now the product inside has been damaged.
So you're going to use that ohm meter to test, and you like people to test, contractors, even the DIYers, before, during, and after. So can't say that enough.
Well, imagine if you received one of these items, you didn't know it was bad.
Right.
You went and you installed your floor, and now you have a completely finished floor, and one of these mats got dinged or damaged in the transportation. Now you're lifting the whole floor up and you're redoing it, and you don't want to do that. That meter right there costs us about $8.99.
Okay.
So they're very inexpensive and they're well worth their money. Once you get it tested and you find out it's all right, then you put the circuit check on the mats as you're laying them out. That way, if someone drops a piece of laminate and it goes and it hits one of the wires and causes a short, that circuit check will go off immediately telling you to stop whatever just happened. If you dropped a saw, because when you're doing a laminate floor, you've got saws, you've got hammers,
right.
You've got spacing tools, all that stuff. If it drops and it falls on the wire and it smashes the wire, now you have a short. This is going to tell you that right away.
So it's going to chirp, it's going to go off, alarms.
And say stop and call us.
Great, because we can fix it. We can or replace it.
Right.
All those options are available. All right, so we've tested it, and the next thing we're going to do is everything's fine, let's assume, and we're going to go right into the install. So the first thing we're putting down is that underlayment, the cork underlayment. You've got an interesting pattern here. Talk to me about this pattern and why this is important to follow.
Well, first of all, this is going to be all floating. So this cork is not going to be adhered to the subfloor.
No glue.
No glue at all. So it's the best way to keep it from separating is to interlock it like bricks. And that's why we show it like that. So that's where your brick pattern comes from.
So it prevents movement, sliding. Mm-hmm. Okay.
What you can also do is you can also take a piece of duct tape and tape all those junctions where the seams come together.
Where they meet.
That'll all hold it together also. And what this cork is going to do is now it's going to isolate the wire from the subfloor. So your floor may get anywhere from 4 to 8 degrees warmer than it would be if you didn't use this stuff. So this really is not just something we're trying to sell you. It's something that we want you to use because your floor is going to be warmer. It's going to heat up faster, and it's going to provide you with the underlayment you need to get the cold leads from the product to the wall.
So you're going to channel back the return power leads or the cold leads coming off each one of those mats or rolls. In this particular bedroom, we have quite a few of these mats and rolls. There's 6 of them. So you really do need to be aware of where those power leads are coming out because you're going to create grooves in this underlayment in the cork for that. And you also need to be aware of the sensor location.
Right.
And we'll show a picture of that, but you know, you've got, those are all indicated on that smart plan, that installation plan. So you just check that plan, look at where the thermostat is, you'll know where the sensor is going, you'll see where the wires are coming out of the mat or the roll, and you know that those are a little bit bulkier than the heating element itself, and so you're going to create grooves for those return leads and sensors.
Right. Yep.
Okay. Is that a good overview?
Very good. Let's see a picture.
All right. So we're installing the Environ now. We've got the cork down. The mats are just laid out.
Notice how there's no thin set, there's no adhesives, there's nothing. You just find the spot, you take all your mats and you lay them out according to the plan and make sure that there are going to be spaces available in the spaces we think. And then once you get them all laid out and you're aware of where that's going to be, they are then going to do your cuts and turns, and then you're going to start moving them to the center of the room so that there's no cold areas between them.
Gotcha.
Now, one thing we get a lot of times on the phones is people will buy just one of these.
A mat.
And they'll put it in the center of the room, and they'll just expect the heat to go across the entire space.
That's a good point.
And it does not. The heat only travels about 1.5 inches, 2 inches from the edge of the wire itself.
If you're lucky.
Right. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Where there's a heating product under the flooring, it will be warm. Where there is no heating product under the floor, it will not be warm.
Good.
So that's why we lay all the product out and then we start pushing it together so the center part of the room is all contiguous with heat. There's no cold stripes between the mats, between that, because as soon as you move them apart 3, 4, 5 inches,
Striping.
it'll be warm, cold, warm.
Yeah, you get that stripe.
And you don't want to do that. So we want to get the cold lead as close to the wall as possible. We want to run it right from the mat over to the wall, and then it's going to run along the edge of the wall up to the thermostat or junction box.
And yeah, one question we do get is there a right side up?
For the large mats, 6x10, those big sizes, there is no up. There, you can turn it any way you want to. That will allow you to have the cold lead coming out of any one of the 4 corners.
Okay.
The cut and turn product is one side up.
Okay.
So you need to make sure, if you take a look at this, see how the aluminum foil is over the top of the wire. You can see the ridges where the wires are.
I can.
You want that to be like that the entire run. You don't want to flip it upside down and have the wires upward.
So the foil here is really a protection layer.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you're saying?
It helps protect it, holds the spacing together for the wires, and allows you to do cuts and turns without having to manually attach the wire to the subfloor.
So we talked about mats. They're great for large open spaces, no cutting, no turning. But then there are smaller areas where you need flexibility, and that's why these are actually called flex rolls, because you can get in there and you can cut and turn it and shape it to the size as much as possible that you want. So if you want this kind of flexibility, Environ rolls are the way to go.
Right.
Now, when you're cutting and turning, what do you have to take into consideration, Scott?
That you can only turn one direction, or right or left. So if you take a look there at the thumb, you can see where that loop is. If we were looking at that, you could turn from that loop, you could turn left, but you can't turn right. The wire has to be, if you want to turn left, the wire has to be on the left side of the roll.
Okay.
Because if it's on the right side, you can only turn right.
Gotcha.
So that's the one thing you need to keep in mind. And if you also look on this picture, you can see where we've taken the roll and we've kind of pushed it a little bit like this, because you don't want the wires opposing each other all the time. It's preferable that you have them offset. So there's a little bit of space, just like you see on that picture.
Now, if you don't have the ability to offset, you could potentially just separate it, maybe about an inch.
Yeah, or you're not even that much. You just want to make sure that the wires are not going to contact
not
each other.
touching. Okay. So
heating wires resting on heating wires is a bad combination.
Not a good thing.
Right.
Okay. So anything else we should share about the Environ product in general?
No, I think that was a very good slide because we can see how it's made up.
Okay. Let's talk about that sensor. We talked about that earlier. You're always going to be controlling the floor heating, either with floor or ambient temperature.
Excuse me for 1 second. Warning, Will Robinson.
Now, with laminate, you really do need to control the floor temperature.
Right.
And the reason for that is most manufacturers have a temperature restriction for their products. It's usually somewhere between 82, 84 degrees. So they don't want that floating wood or laminate going above that temperature. So in these cases where there's laminate involved, you always need a floor sensor.
And you're going to want to choose a thermostat that has an input for a floor sensor if you're doing laminate or carpet, that sort of stuff, because we have to know where what the temperature is in that floor. And another warning, another thing here is we didn't really cut this aluminum mat to fit this sensor in.
Okay.
We did this in Photoshop so we could show you where it sits.
So it's actually sitting under that foil.
Right, it's under the foil. You had to see where it was resting, so we kind of cut it away there. But you can see the sensor isn't routed all the way out into the middle of the floor. It's just put about 6 to 8 inches in between 2 runs of the electric heating wire. And notice how it's not running over one of the heating wires. It's just running between them in an open loop.
Right in the middle.
Right.
Now, could that sensor be over?
Yes, you could. You can tape it on there. But if you do tape it on top, then you have to worry about when you're putting the laminate down and if you hit it. Because the last thing you want is that sensor to move over onto the top of the wire.
Touch the
then
wire.
The system will not operate correctly. It'll short cycle on you.
Okay.
So one thing that you could do is once you put this sensor and you know where it's going to be, you know it's going to rest between heating loops, is you take your fingernails and you pull out some of the cork and then you set the head of that sensor down and recess it a little bit. So you still have your nice flat surface there for your laminate. And then you tape it down, and that's going to keep the whole thing in place.
Do you need to channel the sensor wire as well?
No,
it's pretty thin, eh?
It's thinner than the heating wire. So you just want to get the head of that channeled out. Then you can just put a piece of tape over it, too, to hold that in there.
Okay, and that sensor it's traveling over, that wire's traveling over and up the wall to your control, and that's how we're controlling the temperature of this floor, making sure that we stay in warranty with the manufacturer.
Right, and one thing you want to make sure of is most localities don't require that the low voltage sensor wire be in conduit. Usually you don't have to. Right. If you're from a city like Chicago that completely burned down to the ground, they're very particular about low voltage wires, and they will sometimes make you put that wire in conduit. But most of the time it's not necessarily done. So the one thing you need to make sure of is never ever run that sensor wire in the same conduit as your cold leads.
All right, so good to know there. That is a low voltage sensor.
Right.
And the heating element is 120 or 240 volts.
Right.
Okay. So we've got the sensor location kind of figured out, and we're ready to install. Again, we're going to talk about testing before, during that circuit check is on, and then after as well. But this looks fairly easy. This is just a kind of click in place laminate flooring. But
warning, you can't just go out and buy any laminate. The one thing you want to make sure of is that the laminate company is going to warrant the application with the floor heat. So if they say, we love you to buy our laminate, but you can't use floor heat, it's not a good match for our product.
Right.
There are plenty of companies out there that do allow it.
And we know who they are, so just communicate with us and we definitely can get that information to you.
And also, what other things you want to watch out for on the laminate is to make sure it doesn't come with a pre-attached pad on the back, because pre-attached pads are often made of cork or a foam. Both of those, as we've learned now, are insulators, and we don't want a layer of insulation on top of the heat between it and the laminate. So any 3/8 inch thick laminate is going to be, as long as it's radiant heat compatible, you can use it. If you do have a pre-attached pad, we suggest that you ask the manufacturer what the R value of that entire assembly is, because you shouldn't be installing laminate that has an R value of over 1. Okay. So the thicker that pre-attached pad is, it's going to raise the R value of the product. The ideal laminate is 3/8 of an inch thick without a pre-attached pad.
Okay, but if it does have a pre-attached pad, maybe for soundproofing or something related to that, it's very thin, it's under 1 R value, not a problem.
We have had people that go, I just love this stuff and I've already bought a truckload of it, so what do I do? Well, those people have taken that truckload of laminate and they've scraped the backing off.
Okay.
Which was very arduous and time consuming, but
Hey,
It made them happy.
They bought a truckload. So.
Right.
All right. So we've installed the laminate. Next is wiring. Now that looks like a hot mess.
Well, that's not a thermostat location there.
Okay.
That is a junction box on the wall. Because when you have all these leads, 6 or 7 leads from this job, there's not going to be room to get all of those leads up the wall into the back of the thermostat. Then how do you attach all 7 wires to the thermostat? You don't do that. You get all the wires into this junction box. Now, a lot of times people will put this junction box so it's not visible. They'll put it down behind that wood trim that's there at the bottom. That shoe you can pull off, put the box there, then put the shoe up, and you don't even see that box at all. But in this case, it was already there. It was put in. So we just ran the wires to this box. And inside that white jacket of each one of those is a red wire, a black wire, and a green ground. So what we did is for all those wires, we took all the reds and put them together.
Yeah.
We took all the blacks and put them together. And we took all the greens and put them together.
Pretty plug and play.
Yep. So we just put them all together, and then we sent a wire from the thermostat down the wall to this junction box and connected all the reds to one lead, all the yellows or reds or blacks, reds, and greens to that individual run in the wire.
You're mixing up your 120 and
Well,
240.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because this product was 240, which is
Right.
red and black.
Right. Now, just a special note, folks. This is for this particular bedroom because we had all these mats, 6 mats. But if you're doing 2 or 3, you probably can skip this step and wire directly to the thermostat.
And one thing to keep in mind that these leads are also 30 feet long.
Wow.
So they're
Can
plenty
they be
long.
cut?
You can always trim these. Your local code is going to tell you how much lead is required to come outside of the box for you to make your connections. Some codes say it's 8, some codes say it's 12.
Is that feet or inches?
Inches.
Okay.
So you have to have so many inches of wire sticking outside of the box to make your connections. So check your local code for that.
So your return power leads are over, your sensor wire is over here to the junction box, and then we're going up to that thermostat. All right, and there's the thermostat. You're wiring the back of it. Everything's been pulled up. You're wiring it to the back of the control. Is that pretty plug and play as well?
I'm not doing that, an electrician's doing that.
Good point.
Because,
where's the warning? Warning.
Well, I didn't get to that spot yet. But, this whole project up to now has been pretty much DIY. You can do this. However, many states, many local and municipalities require that when you are taking something from the main electric circuit and attaching it to something else, that has to be done by a licensed electrician. So we strongly suggest that you have an electrician come in here, because this is, as we've done most of the work already, the electrician's really only going to have less than an hour's worth of work here.
And you're at 240 volts.
Right,
so,
and you don't want to mess with 240
no.
either. So
120, but 240, no.
So this is where your electrician's going to come in, and you've done most of the work up to this point, so he's not going to charge you an arm and a leg to do this. It's a simple hookup, but it's probably required by your code.
All right, and as you can see, that's the thermostat that we use in this particular room. We have a full suite of controls, some very simple. You just kind of set it and forget it. And then all the way up to touch screens and Wi-Fi as well. So in this particular case, we did a Wi-Fi. How do we know that, Scotty?
It's got that groovy looking cloud in the upper left-hand corner, and it also tells you what the outdoor temperature is.
Warning, warning, the 70s are back.
So that way we know that, hey, it's 71 degrees outside. Okay. So it's really good for if you're, for you planning, if you want to change your manual settings, you can do it now. You say, wow, it's already 80 degrees, let's turn it off now.
Okay, so we've pretty much at the end of the project. Mm-hmm. The underlayment's down. The laminate's down. We've the radiant heating, the laminate. We've installed the thermostat. So let's talk about the costs. I mean, because that's what everybody wants to know. How much does this cost? Remember, this is a large bedroom, 6 rolls, 6 mats in 1 roll. So the product there at MSRP is roughly $2,500. It's
$2,500 is. When you talk about. You don't look at this price alone, because you're going to look at how much is it going to save in heating the rest of the house to try to get this room warm. So you kind of throw out this cost as like, this is a sunk cost. I know I'm going to spend this, but this is going to allow me to operate this room on its own.
Yes.
Really. So it's what the room costs. We've got 62 sheets of cork there because it's such a large space.
Right. So you've got that insulator.
You may be tempted to go, you know what, I'm going to just delete the cork from this. Keep in mind, if you delete the cork, your room is not going to get as warm. The floor is going to take longer to heat, and the final floor temperature may be anywhere from 4 to 8 degrees cooler than it would be if you had cork. That's how important that is. So if you know you're going to be in this room a lot and you're going to be in this house for quite a long time,
Yeah.
I wouldn't skimp on the cork.
Okay. Especially when you have a hard to heat area. We are winterizing.
Now, though, I'm glad you brought that up, because if this room were above a kitchen or above a living room or something like that, where we know the space below is always going to be 68 to 70 degrees, you probably don't need the cork.
Good point.
So,
or if you're in a warmer climate,
right,
you probably don't need the cork. So you could potentially eliminate that. We're headquartered in Chicago. We're double corking.
Mm-hmm.
So total cost $3,500. Not so bad for such a large room. Operating costs very reasonable, a little over 20 cents an hour, up to temperature, and then about a third of that cost as we go in and out, cycle in and out to maintain temperature. All right, so that's the cost of this particular room. But you know, send us a sketch and we can tell you exactly what your cost will be based on that coverage.
Your results may vary.
Your results may vary. All right, this is the finished look. It really is a beautiful room. It turned out well. Customers very happy. They actually have a warm bedroom in the winter, and this was a Chicago install. Mm-hmm. So even through the toughest winters, they've been able to maintain a comfortable temperature as a result of the Environ radiant heating system.
You know what I'm looking for in this picture?
What are you looking for?
I'm looking to see if there's a dust ruffle that goes all the way to the floor. And I don't see one there, which means that heat is not going to be trapped under there.
Right.
Where else would I look in this room? I would probably look over at that piece of furniture on the right side, and I can see that it does not have a box bottom. It has legs.
Good point.
Which means it's up off the floor, which means there's not going to be any heat trapped under there too. So these are the things that a trained eye is always going to look at, because you don't want areas that are going to trap heat.
You know what I would look at? I want that comforter. Where do I get that?
Okay, well, see, that's fine.
All right, so we're about finished talking you through how to winterize your room, bedroom in this case, with Environ, and especially with Environ under a laminate flooring. So let me know if you have any questions. You've got the guy here. Scotty, talk to me. Did we cover every question that was sent into us during registration?
Somebody asked us about Mohawk Solid Tech flooring. Mohawk Solid Tech flooring is a very nice floor. The only thing is, Mohawk suggests or recommends, or not, both of those words were wrong, requires that the heat be embedded. So when you see a temperature or product that says requires embedded heat, that means that you are taking something like Temp Zone, which is another product of ours made to go under tile predominantly, but you take that product, you attach it to the subfloor and cover it with self-leveling cement. That gives you a nice flat surface. Then you come in and you put that the Mohawk Solid Tech on top of that flat surface.
All right, so really great idea to check with your manufacturer. Can it be done in a floating application, or does it need to be done in an embedded application?
Right. Those are the key words, floating or embedded.
Okay. Well, I think we've done such a good job here that we've answered everyone's questions.
I think so.
So let's talk about what's coming up next month. We're here every month, guys, the second Thursday of the month, 1 to 2 p.m. Central Time. And we're going to be talking about another very popular application, which is luxury vinyl tile. You've been begging us to do this for a while.
And we just talked about it too. LVT is one of those products that goes, if you grab LVT, you can usually go, whoop, you can bend it. Bending items like that are usually better suited for this exact installation that we're going to be talking about.
So come back October 12th and see us again. He's a great guy, and he's got a lot of knowledge, so we want to share that with you. The next thing we wanted to let you know about is we're doing a promotion on the Environ product this month, 15% off. So if you have an application or a project that you're thinking about doing, let's try and get it done this month. Get it done before the holidays so that you can enjoy those nice winterized rooms.
Another place that this stuff is great is under carpet in basements.
Yeah.
So if you are hosting people and you're in the Midwest or the Northeast or the East or whatever, where it gets really cold and you have a basement that's kind of unusable in the wintertime, this stuff is great to put under the carpet, on top of the carpet pad, give you a nice warm area that you can actually use in the winter.
Excellent. So that's our monthly promotion, and we want your feedback. We've got new mics, we've got a new table, new sound system. Let us know how we did. Probably one of the reasons why we had a few technical glitches, but hopefully you guys didn't feel the impact of that. We want to know what you think. What additional questions do you have? You've gone back, you've thought about the material that we've covered, and hey, what about? Well, give us that in your feedback. You can also contact us directly. My email's there. The buck stops with me, so jbillen@warmlyyours.com. Info@warmlyyours.com gets to all of us as well. Check us out on the website. We've got a lot of great videos that this guy stars in. And of course, we're on Facebook and a variety of other social media platforms. So we're everywhere. So see you next month. Put us on your calendar. You'll probably be getting an email from us as well. But until then,
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget the jazz hands.
Oh, sorry.
Jazz hands.